I think at the end of the day, the first thing we have to develop is self-awareness, because leadership starts from within, really. And the second thing is investing in mindset, has a skill set, not a soft skill, but a skill set, investing in mindset. And the third thing I would say is leading with intention, being clear about your impact that you want to make.
Welcome to Rise and Stride, where we empower you to take your next step in an ever-changing business landscape. Here's your host, Denise LeDuc-Frimming, President and CEO of the California Society of CPAs.
Hello, and thanks for joining us for another episode of Rise and Stride, where we bring together diverse voices to explore leading topics to help you navigate the seemingly ever-changing business landscape. Today, we're excited to have with us Dr. Sabine Charles, who's on a mission to help ambitious leaders step fully into their voice, power, and purpose. Sabine is a TEDx speaker, author, and CEO of Charles Financial Strategies, a consulting company that offers risk assessments and corporate training, but with a bit of a twist by integrating the science of human behavior. Prior to launching her own company, Sabine held leadership positions at various organizations, including Citibank, American Express, Deloitte, World Vision International, and Touro University. So Sabine, I am so excited to have you here with us again, to see you. You were at our Women's Leadership Forum in May last year, which you gave a wonderful keynote, and people were so excited to hear you speak. The energy and just the insight you shared were fabulous. So I'm excited today.
I'm also equally excited, and thank you for having me.
There's so much that I want to ask you, so we need to get to it. We always start with finding out really, how did you get to where you are? What drove you to really be focused and have a mission, really, of helping people have their voice, their purpose, and making sure that they step fully into that?
Well, first of all, thank you for that question. That is a difficult one to answer, because if you look at my resume, it looks very methodical. It looks very linear. I was at the Big Four. I worked at internal audit at Citibank, and there was a progression in my career. But early in my development, I did everything right. And I started thinking, hey, what's missing?
Mm-hmm.
We go through our career, we go through the stuff, the long hours, climbing the ladder, and I became a chief audit executive, advising all of that. But then I started noticing something, that the bigger risks were in spreadsheets or in audit reports. They were in fear, burnout, miscommunication, leadership blind spots. And so I noticed that brilliant people were not lacking technical skills, but they were lacking clarity, confidence, and emotional regulation. And I kept asking myself those questions. And during COVID is when I really sat down in silence and started reflecting on life. And I had a business where I was training people to pass the CPA exam, and everything shut down. And with that shutdown, no clients. And I said, so what is the purpose? What am I doing? What is my voice to the world? What am I contributing? And at that point, I was in the middle of completing my doctorate at a local university that was face-to-face, and they also shut down. And I sat there and I mapped out a framework called Leadership MEQ, which integrates mindset, emotional intelligence, and leadership qualities. And this is what I do now. I help individuals and also corporations align technical excellence with human awareness. And then it doesn't only start in systems, it starts with people. And that is what I learned throughout my career. So it's not necessarily a linear saying, I'm going to do A, I'm going to do B. It was really going through life, doing all the right things as a person who completed an accounting degree. And then life took over and it helped me navigate and really start questioning what is the bigger why?
Mm-hmm.
And this is how I ended up where I am today.
Yeah, I think a lot of us think, especially in accounting, don't you, that where it's linear? I mean, we're very focused on a path, the path, and the linear piece of it. So how did you get out of your way? I guess I just want to ask that for many of us who are in the day-to-day. We don't have hopefully we don't have another COVID moment, right? To kind of trigger us
Right.
to ask that why, because I think a lot of people reflected during COVID. How can we kind of get out of that way to ask that question or to make sure that we have that purpose and have our voice?
It's the mindset. Fear and happiness. Fear is the root cause of a lot of things that we do. And fear will prevent us from being successful. And I learned something recently through reading. I realized that they say that it's how we label things.
Mm.
Yeah, it's important how we label things. Your body, excitement and fear have the same physical reaction. Your hands sweaty, start having shortness of breath. But if you label it fear, it's different. But if you label it excitement, it's a different feeling, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So being able to switch, really do the opposite, flip it on its head. So when I'm afraid of this, instead of saying that, say, I'm excited about this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we get out of our way. It's really the mindset shift.
It's interesting that you say that, because I was talking to someone and I don't know, last year I was saying, oh, I'm just kind of dreading. And she goes, okay, Denise, you have to flip it. You can't say, and I've been working with her for like 20 years.
Huh?
It's like, you got to change it, because you can't even put that in your vernacular, right? You have to think differently. You know what I thought of when you said that? I thought of a child when they fall. And a lot of times how you respond to that, like if you go, oh my God, it's terrible. Or if you say, oh, it's going to be okay, that it makes a difference.
You're right. And fear shows up in negative talk, negative self-silencing, right? We're not good enough. I may sound silly. And so I think we need to reclaim our throne, reclaim our voice. And that momentum starts with us just saying, you know what? I'm just going to try it. And the first step is the hardest step.
Mm-hmm. It is. So how do you talk to corporate leaders? Because you've been in corporates, you've been an executive. How do you talk to them to introduce this piece and the mindset into the culture they're in? Because some people just it's very factual.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you introduce that?
So because I do enterprise risk management and audit, and so controls don't fail on their own. People make decisions under pressure, right? People make decisions under pressure. And when I work with organizations, I look beyond the policies and procedures and focus on behavior, how people communicate in certain environments. Because if the control is written on paper and is not aligned on how we function as a company, then that's when you have breakdown. That's when you have higher unmitigated risks. That's when you have fraud in certain situations. So when you start talking about the human element and you connect it to tangible things that people are used to in our environments, then they tend to understand the importance of people, process, and technology.
Mm-hmm. So what have you seen as like a habit or something that's easy to change that helps impact the framework in a positive direction?
When you ask that question, I think of two things, right? So because I work in internal audit, and I think the biggest challenge, if you will, for internal audit functions in organization is branding. Branding. Being able to communicate clearly what we do. We cannot be all things to all people. And I think we struggle with that. And working through understanding there's empathy creates connection and strategy gives direction. And most leaders understand that we need both. We need the heart and the mind. logic and empathy, strategy and empathy, the right brain and the left brain. And working on, and leadership is really balancing. There's an analogy here, balancing the books, right? It's like the debits and credits. So we need logic and humanity.
That's true.
We need the logic and humanity actually balancing. I just came up with that one. I don't know. The accounting nerd in me.
I like it. You can use it when you're out there and in your framework.
See, you can't take the accountant out of people, right?
No, I can't. Thank goodness. You always have to have it there, the balancing piece. So when you're out and you're talking with your framework and with the internal audit piece, because there's a lot of change that's happening in all of our worlds, but definitely in the internal audit world, as we think about AI and even more audits that need to be done, because we need to know the truth behind, right, a lot that is being pulled as far as information and data. What's your message to these teams? Because they're going to have to think differently, right? And the human in the loop is going to be even more important. So what has been your message to them, or what do you see them struggling with?
Well, I'm going to answer it in two ways. You asked about truth. What is truth? What is truth? I'm asking. I mean, we have to really start diving. What is truth?
It's interesting when you say that in the realm of AI, I'm like really thinking about it.
Yeah. That is the biggest problem. What is truth? I mean, we could talk about the technical things, right? Third party risk, or concentration risk, right? Fourth party risk, cultural misalignment. Yeah. But it boils down to the basics. Because before we used to be check mark, the checklist type of thing. The vendor oversight, check mark, ensuring that the vendors are connected and all of that. But now we need to constantly validate. We have to understand the interconnections of vendor, people, and how we do business. And at the end of the day, when we look at the financial statements, now let's get into the CPA part of it, right? We have to ensure that the numbers reflect the organization's health. So truth, and we don't give absolute assurance, right? So it's not completely true. It's in the realm. So we're as professionals, internal auditors, external auditors, risk people, we are always trying to find that truth. And that truth may be different for every organization.
So how as an auditor do you align, right, your overall approach with that? Because as that's changing, is the pace of change, first of all, and then you have it looking different. How do you, as an auditor, start aligning or mitigating, managing the risk to that?
That's where the human element comes in, where governance is playing. Right. AI technology is just moving rapidly. Like every 3 months, we're getting more, hey, this is a new application with AI that could do a job of 95,000 people, right? Whatever we're hearing, right? And we need to not forget the human element. Governance is going to be the key. It's not slowing progress down. It's not slowing progress. People tend to think governance is slowing progress. No, governance is really thinking outside the box and figuring out, okay, how can we use this tool but not be crushed, destroyed, or misled by the tool? We can't just leave and just let go of the wheel and think the car is going to drive itself. We had problems, right? We've seen stuff in the news.
Right.
So we need to always have that human piece into the whole equation. And this is where leadership, mindset, emotional intelligence, data is collected. Data doesn't speak. Data doesn't provide the nuanced piece that helps us make a decision in a business environment. The same data points may be interpreted differently because it can be, and it could be used differently. So knowing that, and I'm not saying that we can't use AI. I think there is a place for it because it'll give us the mundane, the things that are tedious. We could use that and then concentrate more on the decision making, concentrate more on the relationship building and alignment and understanding the mission and culture and vision of the organization to ensure that you're providing that service to enhance profitability, making sure that there's proper reliance on financial statements and operation effectiveness.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like what you said about governance, because when people talk about it, I think a lot of times what is heard is structure, slow things down, bureaucracy. But to your point, what you're saying is it doesn't have to be. It can be guardrails that are put in and just allowing you to work within the framework and to know what those guardrails are.
That's right.
Transparency.
Because we're in a world of innovation and it's moving fast. Governance needs to actually be adaptable, right? Good controls are adaptable.
That's key.
It is. It's absolutely key and critical. Yeah.
That's key. Yeah, I think about that because a lot of people put governance in and they're like, okay, my work is done for the next 80 years. It's good to go. And so to have that adaptable piece is key because it allows you to have a flexible framework, in essence, to shift as the time does.
And that's the challenge. Because when you start thinking about governance, you think of being rigid, right? And that, again, that's the mindset. Understanding, all right, well, we need to put guardrails to allow the creativity and the innovation to thrive. Because that's what business is all about. Innovative products, innovative ideas. So it shouldn't be a stifling growth, but it should have some kind of guardrails in place to allow fun play, right? You're playing in the sandbox, right? You're playing in some place that's safe so that you then can create and develop things that are amazing.
I like that sandbox is two ways, right? I mean, the sandbox.
Yeah,
literal. Yeah. So talk to me about risk. Like, what is the most overlooked risk that you've seen out there? Or where do you see there's opportunity to kind of focus more in on those critical elements?
Well, it depends on which industry. Like, so what specific areas?
Maybe healthcare and then maybe financial. Those are big. They're big.
Well, healthcare, I think of records because I used to do fraud investigations at another place, and medical records are more valuable than individuals' identity. And a lot of times these hospitals don't have the security measures as strong as a financial institution. So understanding that and investing in information security at certain higher levels than what we would expect for a hospital we need to think more about that. Yeah. And especially where we have handheld devices, we use a lot of that. We may even use our own personal devices for work. I mean, we got to start thinking how to protect patient data, ensuring that we have that locked in. I think that's one of the bigger risks in healthcare at this point. Now,
that's PII, right? Yeah, the PII.
Yeah, PII. Now, if you talk about universities or financial institutions, I think not a lot of financial institutions have invested in AI, and a lot of these projects have failed. And that opens up a question: why? People have put thousands, millions of dollars into these things, and why are these projects failing? I think the reason is that I sat down and really thought about this. Do we really want AI? Do we want this technology? Or are we just doing it there's an American expression, do like the Joneses, like, kind of keep up with the Joneses.
I think there's a fear of that. I do. Being left behind.
Yeah. And I think, some companies are just doing it not because they don't want to be left behind, but they're not really doing it with a clear intention to have this be a long-term solution or tool that can be integrated in their landscape, in their control environment.
Mm-hmm.
And when I start thinking about this, I'm like, maybe that's what's happening. We are just reacting with not really analyzing the impact to the workplace. Like, we're afraid.
Mm-hmm.
We're saying, oh, yeah, we need AI. We need to learn it. But we're in the back of our minds, we're like, well, AI is going to take my job. So are we really full-heartedly going and creating projects for success? Are we subconsciously sabotaging these projects because we don't want AI to take our livelihood? I'm just asking a question because I'm like, all these companies, I mean, not all of them, but many of them. And you've read you hear the news and you read these articles and you see the investment that's put in there, but the movement is just not there. And I'm wondering why. Is there resistance in the culture, in the company's culture, anywhere to prevent it from really going into or kind of infiltrating into the DNA of the company?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I'm just observing. And also, I am getting my certificate in AI. So I'm trying to like follow, not be left behind, but really understanding how we could use this for the betterment of mankind.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of the young people don't necessarily like AI, which is interesting because they're concerned about the environmental impacts,
Right.
which is very interesting because you would think the youth, the younger generation, will absorb it the same way they absorb technology like the phone and all of these screens that we've introduced in their lives early on. And so they've ingested that easily. But AI, because my daughter is in that age group, the age group of teenager, like 13 to 25 or 20, some of them are not so keen on AI.
No, I'm with you. It's a technology, maybe-ish, right? So it's technology, but it is life-changing in many ways. And it does infiltrate into your ecosystem, right? And it has to for the benefit piece. But I'm with you. I see a lot of benefit in healthcare because that's been my background. I mean, as far as what can be achieved through diagnosis and solutions and right. But I'm with you. I don't know if the urgency is there because you don't want to be left behind, but I don't know if the urgency is there because you have the ability to integrate it and see top line growth from it.
Right. And see, this, if you think about healthcare, I have heard people have created fake medical notes and submitted them in my line of business. None of the companies that I work for, I'm just full disclosure, right?
But interesting.
Right? So now, are they doing this, to go back to your point, is it embedded in the ecosystem or is it a survival technique? Are we really introducing AI and people are using that as survival because of that fear?
I didn't even think of it from the medical notes. I mean, I've thought from fake receipts, fake this, fake that, right? But the medical notes, I didn't even think about that. It's interesting.
Because they have to do X amount of, they have to see X for insurance purposes. They have to see X amount of patients
right
in a day, and then they have to write the notes. And then that the system is just antiquated. So AI, I'm not giving any ideas. First of all, full disclosure, I'm not giving any advice on how to create fraudulent documentation, but
it's out there.
Yeah, it is out there. So then that goes back to what is true.
No, I was just going to say it's so right. Yeah. We'll have to talk in 6 more months and see where, because it's moving so fast. I'll be interested, honestly. We're all just really trying to ride the wave as best we can and see where it goes. So I have a question. Why? Just because, that EQ piece is really embedded into everything, the human. So I'm curious I'm thinking about the young professionals that may be listening here. And if you have you can lead, right, without being a leader in a leadership, I'm going to do in quotes, position. How do you gain the influence? How do you become influential? How do you become that leader?
Listening.
Mm.
Listening. Leadership is defined based on the environment you sit or you work in, right? Being a leader in some places is being the loudest voice. Being a leader in other places is having the best code written. Listening and aligning it with what you believe is your core value.
Mm.
That's how. So you can't fake it till you make it. You have to really, you can't. I don't, because you're going to fake it and it's not going to come through genuinely, right? It's going to come out fake. They're going to like, she's just giving me lip service.
Right.
So it has to resonate. It has to. So if, as a young person, that's why I always say, you got to first find that voice. And everyone's like, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. I get it. But in the process of getting A, B, and C, you don't lose yourself. And that is the biggest challenge. Because many of us who've been in this game for a while, they tell us, you got to do this, you got to do that. You spend all these hours, you do all the things that you're supposed to do. And then all of a sudden, you feel empty.
Mm-hmm.
You feel unaccomplished. You have all the credentials. So that process of reclaiming that voice, reclaiming your throne, is important and needs to be the centerpiece as you go through your career.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be challenged. You're going to be challenged. Your integrity is going to be challenged. And especially in our profession, it's constantly challenged and constantly questioned. Should we do this? Should we not? Can we modify this statement or whatever the case may be? And if you do it and it doesn't resonate with you, it's going to then really take a toll of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so for young leaders, understanding that and being open to hear and listen, because you don't know all the answers, because there's no right answer. There are answers,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to figure out what is the best answer that sounds right in your soul.
Mm-hmm. When you said that, reclaim your throne, I don't know if you remember Precious, but she posted that because she heard you speak and she was like, reclaim your throne. I think she had a t-shirt maybe too. So I love that.
You know why? Because I did a TEDx talk, and my TEDx talk was about reclaiming your throne. And so what it was about, it was really saying, at the end, I learned leadership when I was 5. And I talked about this in that presentation we did in May. I learned leadership when I was 5 years old, when someone took my jump rope. And my grandmother was the one who made me realize, hey, you cannot let people take what's yours. At the age of 5. And she made me go get the rope back and made sure that I reclaimed my jump rope. And I start out my TED Talk talking about that event, reclaiming your rope, reclaiming your identity, and reclaiming your voice. Because in life, that voice sometimes becomes dim.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you constantly need to reclaim it, because life is life. And we do get lost. Mm-hmm. in our nonsense, right?
True.
And so we constantly need to kind of take a step back and say, wait a minute, what is important? And as a young professional, knowing that there's going to be ups and downs, it's not linear, that the only thing that's linear is you.
That's a big, I think, aha moment for me too, when I was young, right? It's not linear. It is a crisscross, up, down, back and forth, right? Up the mountain or down the mountain. It is. And it's understanding that. And there's beauty in that.
And this is so funny because you talk about mountains. Did you hear my TEDx talk or no?
I didn't. I'm going to go listen. I did not.
Because you know what? I actually talked about mountains in that talk. Because there's a Haitian proverb, Deyemon Gemon. Behind mountains, more mountains, which means every challenge you have is an opportunity for you to climb higher, because it's an opportunity for you to reclaim and figure out, hey, it's just a moment. And it's so funny you talk about mountains, because that was another piece in my talk, how these challenges in life, they come and go. But again, we need to just stay focused on not necessarily be selfish, because some people could interpret that, oh, that's just being self-centered. No, you got to always just preserve so that your glass is enough. You have enough in your glass that you could parse out to the world. And that's what I'm saying. And, when we talk about risk, we talk about all these things that are happening, our environment, our governments, all of this turmoil that's happening, need to figure out how to stay grounded, because we're doing something. We have to start thinking that work is an expression of who we are. It's an expression of who we are. It's not what we are. So that's important. So when people, and I've realized it because I used to be in investment banking, and one of those moments we had a crash, and some people, my colleagues, jumped out of the window because their life, their money, their job was no longer. And that's when that was another moment in my life. And I was like, what am I doing? So again, we have to, and if the job that you're in is just making you go, pull out, go find someplace that will make you resonate and make you become bigger and better and brighter.
I love the jump rope story. That to me is always going to, stories, they say, stick with you, but that really, it's such a young age to have such a moment is key. And I love this story. Good luck for your grant. Wow, what a lady. What a lady. We should talk about that. We should really have a podcast about talking about our grandparents, what they taught us, because there's a lot that grandparents teach you that you don't realize.
Yeah. And, because our parents are so busy providing, the grandparents are there. And this is what they say about having a community, raising a family. And it may not necessarily be a biological person, because I actually on a board of a board that helps elderly people stay in their homes and connect with the youth. So we give occasions where young people help the elderly, work their cell phone or do some type of crafts. And then the older adults are sharing with the younger generation. We need more of that human connection, because that's what's being lost in these, virtual environments. We always set meetings up. Okay, next meeting, but we don't have the water cooler conversations.
No, that's the hard part.
It is. I try to set meetings up with my colleagues just to chit chat 15 minutes, just catch up. They're like so confused. They're like,
I love that.
They're like, is there an investigation happening? I'm like, no, I'm just calling to say hi. They're like, what? Like, there's nothing happening. There's no audit issues. I'm like, no, hello. How was life? And people are losing that. They're confused by that.
It's good. You confuse them. You keep them off balance. Sabine, keep them off balance. I love that. We'll have to have another part 2 of this. So our time is drawing near, and I want to ask you one more question, because you talk a lot about the leadership and the importance of, claiming your throne and being authentic in your own self. What is the one leadership quality you wish was taken away?
What do you mean?
You think that's not relevant? Doesn't make sense.
Oh, so one leadership quality that's not important?
Or that you think it's overrated? Is there one that just in your mind is
being bossy?
Oh,
right? Telling people what to do? I don't know.
Yeah, I like that.
I think at the end of the day, the first thing we have to develop is self-awareness, because leadership starts from within, really. And the second thing is investing in mindset, has a skill set, not a soft skill, but a skill set. investing in mindset. And the third thing I would say is leading with intention, being clear about your impact that you want to make. So what if you do those three things, it becomes super clear. It becomes kind of the roadmap for success. And so for inspiring leaders, I think that's how you could level up. Because if you have self-awareness, not having you're talking to someone and they just see your name, they don't see your face. All right, we're in this electronic, it's not necessarily Zoom, Teams, whatever you use, Google Meets, right? If you don't show your face, they're not going to remember you. You know how many people, how many meetings we have? But we remember visual things.
Mm-hmm.
And you start investing in the mindset as a skill, just like you're going to invest in getting your CPA, just like you're going to invest to get your CIA. You invest in your mindset and communication skills. Both matters. And then use that compass. Lead with intention. Not just kind of be like, oh, I'll just go along. Well, is it going to impact your integrity? Is it going to impact your vision, your mission, or your desire to provide knowledge to society? Because I think we're all here to add value to the betterment of mankind. That's what I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think that. And we may do it by being a janitor. We may do it by being a person who stays at home and takes care of children or elderly. Whatever it is, not one is better, not one is worse. Everyone has a skill or a gift that's being shared for the betterment of society.
Mm-hmm. That's a good drop the mic moment. I would say just think about all that, because the intentionality is key. And that is one of my pet peeves, when people don't put on their face. It's all, I'm talking to students and I see just names. I'm like, okay, I don't even see if I'm resonating. So
we need to commit. I know. Even in meetings, it's not students do it. I mean, they do it because I teach.
We all do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I do it sometimes because I don't have my makeup on or whatever. I look, I'm shoving food in my mouth while we're in a meeting, so I have my camera off. Yeah, so I too struggle with balancing time at times. I mean, we all do, because we're working from home and we have other responsibilities. And with things so quick that we have to react to, we sometimes fall out of balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You gave us a lot to think about. It was fabulous to talk to you. We'll have to have part 2. Definitely share more grandparent stories. I love that. But thank you. Thank you for taking time to speak with me and with the audience. And I hope all of you in the audience took notes, because I surely did, so that you can reflect back and we can make tomorrow better.
Thank you for having me, and I appreciate it. This was fun.
It was fun. Thank you.
Rise and Stride is produced by the California Society of Certified Public Accountants. To learn more, visit calcpa.org.